Okay, I've decided to make a pulley for this engine. Small pulley which will sit outside of the flywheel, and the pulley is going to be made of aluminium, which will contrast nicely with the brass flywheel. I've decided that all engines that I make in the future, well, never say never, never say always, but I'm of a mind that the engines that I make in the future will all have pulleys on them. Why? Because, you know, are they actually going to drive anything, these engines? Well, some of them might, I suppose. Smaller ones like this may very well not. But it's just that, to me, a steam engine is a working machine. And the pulley, to me, even if it's never actually used with anything, denotes the idea that it's not a closed system. It's an open system. It can be connected. It can be interfaced with the world, with other things. So, a pulley it will be. So, the plan of campaign is, now that I've got the bar stock down to just over the desired diameter, first of all, rough out pulley and boss all in one piece of this in the 3-jaw chuck. Drill and ream to 6mm. Part it off, put it on the drive shaft of the engine, which already has the pulley fixed onto it, and turn it in situ using the ER32 collet chuck. So hopefully it will run nice and concentric to the pulley, to the shafts, and to everything else. So here's the thing. I ordered these two little drive belts from an interesting website called Motion Co, based in the UK. They sell all kinds of things to do with light duty drive systems. Fascinating site to browse. Anyway, I also have these two round nosed carbide turning tools, and I was kind of hoping that I might be able to cut a nice groove with one of these in the aluminium pulley that might match one of the belts. Well, first of all, I think that the big belt here is too thick for this machine. I think, you know, this belt that size will be for larger engines in the future. This one, but that would be that circular tip might be about the right size for that big belt, so that will be for another day. This wee one here, well, this smaller of these two round tip tools is maybe a little bit bigger than the belt, but I'll see how it goes, and at least I'll know that I can order a belt somewhere in between in terms of size. I think they do a range of sizes, so once I've cut the groove I'll be able to match it up to that small belt, and at least it'll give me a guideline. By the way, I rather foolishly ordered belts that are far too short and are actually useless for anything other than this, which is a size gauge, but at least they're doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and make the pulley and cut the groove with the smaller of these two tools and see how it looks. So here we go with the red layout die. Any excuse, you know, for the red layout die. Tubal Cain, by whom I mean Mr. Pete 222, not Thomas Walshaw, says that he likes the red stuff because it's prettier than the blue. I have a tendency to agree with that. I really like the look of it. And I like the blue as well, so it's nice to have some of each. Complete and utter luxury and unnecessary extravagance. But hey, you gotta live, eh? Wow, this semicircular tool cuts into this aluminium. Sorry, this circular tool cuts a semicircular groove in this aluminium like a dream. Look at that go, no chatter at all. Not yet, anyway. I don't know, the groove looks quite big, but the belt seems to sit in it quite nicely. Maybe a wee bit too small, but I think I can just carry on and suck it and see. As I say, I can also buy a bigger belt in due course, if I ever drive anything on it, that is. So I'm just going to drill and ream this now to 6mm before I part it off, because with a bore down the middle it will be easier to part off. so I'll just do that now. So I'm going to part this off nice and long so that there's plenty of room for both sides of the pulley and for a nice long boss, so that I don't have any trouble in reaching in to drill a cross hole for a grub screw, and also just for something to hold in the lathe. It'll be easy enough to turn that away later and get all the proportions right. So it's taking shape, although I have done rather a stupid thing, which is that if I'd left more material at that end of the pulley, look at my hands, if I'd left more material at that end of the pulley, I'd have more to grab onto now with the chuck. So it means that it's a bit of a fiddle trying to machine this. That's my inexperience coming to the fore, but it's all right. It'll, there will be a way. And by the way, I'm using the parting tool to turn this diameter down, because you can then get right in and make a bit of a shoulder between that red bit and the bare aluminium. But what I might do is go in with the small round nose tool at the end to create a nice little radius, so that the boss and the body of the pulley, there's a nice radius where they meet. I think that'll be a nice touch. It's starting to look a bit like a pulley already. I'm actually now using a combination of this right-handed carbide tool and my parting tool just to whittle down this diameter and try and leave a decent finish on the back end of the pulley. I'm just carving away at it really. There's no critical dimensions here. I'm just doing it all by eye, which is basically the way I used to machine everything before I started into this live stream malarkey. So this is starting to look kind of okayish. It's starting definitely to look like a little pulley. The boss I don't want to take down much further, because otherwise I'll go down past the diameter of the hub of the flywheel and that would look terrible. I'd like them to be the same so it looks continuous. All I really need to do now is to reduce the length of this. I need to change that glove. These things rip very easily. Just take it so that the two rims, if you like, of the pulley are pretty much the same size. Then I'll be looking to mount it on the shaft and turning it in the collet chuck, which is really like turning between centres, so that it runs true. Well, no, I'll have to drill a cross hole and tap it first. And maybe make a flat on the shaft as well. No props. So there's the pulley roughed out and the 3-jaw. Next step is it goes into the mill to cross drill this and thread the hole. Now the hole is going to be as close to the main body of the pulley as possible, so that the length of the boss can be reduced. So far so good. So here we go, the pulley is now mounted in the rotary table come dividing head, and I'm using a wiggler to find the centre with the DRO, so that we can put a cross hole in the boss that's nice and central. So the cross hole's drilled, and it's quite nice and close into the main body of the pulley, so I can really take that boss down, make the whole thing more compact. And I'm using, as usual, a piloted spindle on the mill. Piloted spindle tap wrench. You can't beat it. It keeps everything in line. That's the pulley basically done. It just needs to be trued up on the shaft, in situ on the shaft. So what I'm going to do is, once again, like I did for the flywheel, mill a little flat on the shaft to accept the grub screw that holds the pulley. So there's a little flat milled there just in front of the flywheel. It's been tidied up with needle file. And what I'm going to do now is take my little hand vise, just like I did for the flywheel, and hold my last remaining M4 grub screw against the grinder to flatten the end of it, so that that will locate firmly against that flat on the shaft. Now I had 4 M4 grub screws that I bought the other day in a little plastic packet, and I dropped 2 of them on the floor, and I used one of them for the flywheel, so if I lose this one I'm going to be scrabbling about on the floor looking for them. So fingers crossed. Shaping up to be a very handy tool, this. It's got a little notch in the middle where you can hold things like grub screws, and it's nice. It's quite heavy, it's old, and it wasn't expensive. I got it in Brighton. I'm pleased with it. I've used it already more than once and I've only had it a week or two. So I don't know if you can see that or not, because it's not too bad at all, but the pulley has a slight wobble relative to the flywheel, which is what I would have expected. It's actually better than I thought it would be. So I'm just going to put the tailstock into the little hollow at the end of that shaft to give it support, stop it chattering, and just give a light skim to the main diameters of the pulley, including the groove, and hopefully then that'll be it. So the pulley and the flywheel are running nice and true. It's beautiful, that. I think what I'll do is I'll just turn down the end of that shaft now and then put another little conical hole in the middle of it with a centre drill just to finish it off. Both of these wheels are securely fixed to the flats on the shaft. Very happy with it, and very happy with the way this ER32 collet chuck does its job. It's phenomenal, actually. So just when I thought I had it all wrapped up, series of unfortunate events involving bending of the shaft means that there is now a slight wobble. You can see it most clearly on the flywheel there. It's not huge, but it's no use. We don't want an engine with a flywheel that does that. I've also been advised by a wise man on a forum that I'm a member of to reverse the pulley so that the actual pulley part is closer to the flywheel. That puts less lateral strain on the shaft and bearing when there's a belt on that driving something, and also to turn down the diameter to give it more mechanical advantage. So I'm going to do that as well. And there's the shaft. Not much of a bend in it, but it is wiggling. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a very slight wiggle on that. Maybe you can see it just at the end there. But of course, as soon as you get a bit of diameter on that in the form of wheels of some kind, then the misalignment is amplified. So I'm going to get rid of that. Right, well, I found an undamaged piece of the original shafting. So basically there's a very tiny wobble, maybe a 2 thou max, but I think that might just be because of having disturbed the pulleys and the pulley and flywheel and, you know, fiddled with the grub screws. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to take the wheels off. I'm going to mill 2 flats once again for the grub screws. Then I'm going to put it back in the lathe with the pulley reversed like this, as I was advised to do. Take a tiny skim off the flywheel, just make sure it's running as true as it can, and then turn down the pulley. Well, finally got back to where we were pretty much, I think. They're running pretty true, I would say. There might always be a tiny amount of run out, but I think we're well within acceptable tolerance here. It looks pretty static even though it's turning. And the pulley looks nice actually, much less obtrusive than it was before. Turned down to a smaller diameter and facing the other way. I like that. I think we'll call it done for now.